Hello everyone, welcome to brainyfounder channel. In topic for today, I will tell you a secret about how to stop comparing yourself to others. In the present, it's very easy to slide right into the comparison trap in a world that serves images, preaching nothing short of perfection and screaming success at us from every angle. But what if I told you that your worth and value aren't based on how successful or even validating in appearance you are? This is your chance to join in this daring journey toward self-discovery and the empowerment that lies undiscovered through the pitfalls of comparison. Let's literally get beneath the illusion of comparison under the goalpost-moving effect of an external locus of control and get down with the spiraling madness that is comparison. Chapter 1: The Pitfalls of Comparison. That comparison, the one never-ending mousetrap that lures an alarming number of people into the pit of self-doubt and discontent. As they go on with their lives, they find themselves irrevocably caught in and at such times, most people come in for therapy racked by an acute sense of unworthiness, which they cannot exactly place. On deep probing, it is noted that the sense of unworthiness is so pervasive because they are continuously comparing themselves with others. Oftentimes, they succumb to the thought that they are built-in second-raters, that they can never rise to the expectation which seems so perfect in the eyes of their neighbor. The consequences of comparison are way bigger than just feelings of inferiority. In many other cases, people indulge in a counterfeit form of comparison where they find comfort in belittling others to feel high about them. They get gratification on a more temporary basis of feeling better by mocking at others whom they regard as not so successful or accomplished. This ephemeral sense of superiority is built on the questionable premise of insecurity and is likely to fall because of their very own doubt. Deep implications of comparison have been supported by research relating it to a lot of concerns from eating disorders to social anxiety. All that unquenchable chase to compare is what augments so much discontented dissatisfaction that indeed remains part of life. Comparison, aside from its fleeting interests, usually leaves one in a relentless cycle of wanting to be validated, as it is not enough to get one truly lasting fulfillment. In another growth, the comparison does not end on personal welfare, but also transcends to incorporate societal norms and cultural expectations. This breeds a culture of consumerism that assures people are reckless with their spending just to avert losing on intangible rivals. The competition in life starts when people chase material possessions so as to bridge the ever-widening gap of inadequacy results arising from the comparison. Basically, comparison proves to be an illusion in which disappointment and frustration lie in ambush at every turn. What seems to be valid or satisfying in the end is pure disillusionment and despair. The charm at least seems to be of temporary duration, but it has too much power. One has to come to terms with the perils of comparison and overlay these with their own rendition of self-worth. Chapter 2: The Illusion of Comparison. The universal appeal comparison has means that all it does is to distort reality in such a way that this practice perpetuates the presentation of a distorted image of self and others. As people unknowingly fall into a trap of comparison, they step into a sphere of cognitive distortion in which judgments are passed under a selective focus on inadequacies. This, psychologically, is explained selectively as focus blind spots, where people are fixated to their perceived failures and magnify the successes and attributes of others. This, in turn, becomes a selective filtering mechanism reinforcing the already low sense of self, that they are inherently inferior and not able to measure up to the flawless standards set by the people around them. Besides, the comparison is an illusion, subject to shallow judgment and incomplete stories. Most times, we do not fully get to appreciate that level of complexity, and other people's lives are just reduced to portions under our feet for comparison. That capacity to make light, make assumptions, and pass misjudgments further fuels intimations that make one feel inferior and foster doubt. This is compounded further by the always increasingly greater use of social media, where carefully chosen imagery and storylines have come to project a very unnatural picture of perfection. The human mind gets bombarded with such idealized projections of success and happiness that most people start to feel increased inadequacy through fueling their fears. Hundreds, if not thousands, of examples abound even around this country of people who, though they may look successful on the outside, are totally wrestling with their own inner demons and struggles. It is time to wake one up, or rather it should wake people up, that the difference between perception and reality is that comparison is fallacy, the illusion of danger when one bases their judgment and perception of one's self-worth on mere appearances. We live today in the world that is increasingly coming together and where the attributes to the trend of globalization and connectedness are always rising. This makes social comparison even more causative with the rise of vast platforms in social media. They are left provocatively exposed on their own to the curation of other people's lives, usually stripped of flamboyant details that define the enthralling busyness of human experience. The one-sided portrayal lays down fertile ground for comparison. The individual contrasts and compares his worth against an idealized facade. Therefore, overcoming an illusion towards comparison calls for a persistent grappling with the scores of disfiguring mental habits and entanglements, and extension of complex conceptualizations of oneself and others. Considering an intrinsic fallacy of comparison, when focus is brought back on the point of values on the inside and one's personal growth, brings an opening of the possibility that such a base be laid for the people to lead a healthy, authentic and satisfying life. Chapter 3. External locus of control. Comparison is also seen as a distortion by the fact that it makes not only different perceptions of self and others, but leads to an external locus of control where some individuals base their self-worth on a need for outer validation and comparison. Because too much attention is directed towards outdoing others, the subject inadvertently gives up control to factors such as fluctuations of the people around. It gives a sense of helplessness and insecurities where one would feel that their worth depends on being able to outdo someone in the pecking order. Many times, the sense of value gets strung up on the vagaries of external validation, which hopelessly makes one open to unpredictable comparison ebbs and flows. But then, the trouble with comparison and its condition of insufficiency is that in it one would hope to never find fulfillment or be satisfied in respect. Since always self-worth is attached to comparative measures, he will ever live in a state of longing and discontent and chase constantly a standard of success that is almost touchable. Real change in perception, where one gets freed from these chains of compare and gets the control back over one's worth, has to happen on the eve of change. It's the realization worth is a fixed, inherent characteristic, not something that your worth depends on, depending on surpassing others. Realization gives one a natural sense of worth that transcends those haphazard benchmarks set by making comparisons. Embracing the perspective means that the individual will now ever so shift his or her consciousness to focusing consciously on bringing or keeping outer actions in line with inner values and aspirations. Then life becomes much less like a mad race in which one picks up items personally comparative to others or some theoretical standard, and more like a personal development or self-transformation according to one's authentic wants and aspirations. Shifting focus from competition to integrity implies being able to step out of the prison shell of external validation and to make choices on the basis of something more authentic and fulfilling. Finally, a clearer and more solid inner attachment to one's values counterweighs the eroding blow that comparison can otherwise deliver. People rise above and create more values and meaning when they are grounded in core values and aspirations, rather than in the flimsy comparisons one garners through the trappings of life. People derive joy not so much from the measures of success that are dictated from without, which are bound to be superficial, as from the sense of having made a contribution and having come through in ways that mattered to them. In effect, a veritable change of paradigm is called for if one wants to be free of the outer locus of comparison. It is the very realization that real worth is not something contingent upon comparison or outdoing others, but rather something intrinsic and inalienable. Because when one embraces this truth that is so basic, one is enabled to restore personal control over one's sense of self-esteem and start experience that way of life that is truer and more meaningful, founded in dignity and self-worth. Chapter 4: The Escalating Drama of Comparison. But moving on to a bigger screen, this insidiousness spills over the limit of an individual psychology and proceeds to subsume the societal norms and cultural paradigms. It operates as a cognitive distortion, where it provokes individuals to conceive their life from the point of view of scarcity and competition. This lack mentality drives success and provides an insatiable quest for validation, wherein humans feel themselves as permeating rat race towards such validation. The analogy that best fits is that of crabs in a bucket. No other metaphor could more illustratively capture the spirit of comparison in which people hunt for respect and success by competing with others. People become players in backbiting tactics to outsmart assumed competitors, and suspicion and enmity are aroused in that zero-sum mentality. At this point, what one would assume success to be turns out to be a ruthless struggle through betrayal, manipulation, and cutthroat ways. Comparisons bring forth toxicity and enthusing contention. Even in the most favorable situation of sports and competition, there will have to be the absence of such. There will no longer take away the sense of cohesion and camaraderie when selfishness starts to arise within a group of athletes who aims outshining to each other. They no longer get high and jubilant on the victory, but are drowned and burned by individual accolades. This is reinforced by cultural messages that idolize competition and consumer culture, convincing everyone that their worth can only be seen through outdoing the next person. The story of competition gives rise to unending wants for approval and achievement, so that one is stuck in a wanting loop, never paused to think that what he attains is sufficient. But it obviously opens up a possible window in this world of comparison and competitive ideals for a revolution. Then, people weren't striving toward a life of scarcity and competition, but would adhere toward the paradigm of abundance and toward cooperative living. Life is a recognition of a fulfillment rather than always being perceived as a zero-sum game. Abundance thinking represents the extent to which one shifts from a competitive ideology, which is based on the basis of scarcity, to a cooperative ideology, which is based on an attitude of abundance. It's focusing on gaining joy from the success of others rather than seeing it as a threat to your success. By engendering a culture of collaboration and support, one eventually rids of the corrosiveness of comparison and fulfills courtesy of more harmonized living. Really does take a cooling prod at things we characterize as societal norms, such as cultural paradigms today. It involves a refusal of scarcity and competition-oriented narrations of comparison in life. In this advertising billboard of others' successes collectively, with a mutual celebration and nurturing of a support culture, we all get out of the prison of comparison into a more fulfilling and peaceful life. Chapter 5: Changing Points of View. To break free from the trap of comparison, it's crucial to shift how we see things. This means taking a look at our values and goals and gaining an insight into ourselves and those around us. This transformative process involves an approach that challenges ingrained thought patterns and behaviors, paving the way for a genuine and satisfying life. At the core of this transformation is the understanding that comparing oneself to others won't a gauge of self-worth or happiness. Then, focusing on external measures of success or approval, it's important to turn inward and reconnect with our inner values and dreams. By aligning our actions with what matters to us, we can nurture a sense of self-respect that goes beyond the surface-level comparisons. Furthermore, changing perspectives involves developing an appreciation for the complexities of experiences. Of seeing others as standards for comparison, it's about fostering empathy and understanding. Recognizing that everyone has their struggles helps build connections and unity among people, replacing competition and judgment with compassion and empathy. At the core of this life-changing process lies the importance of understanding oneself and staying present in the moment. By tuning into their thoughts, feelings, and actions, people can confront the seated beliefs and ideas that drive them to compare themselves with others. Through activities like meditation, writing in a journal, and reflecting inwardly, they can enhance their self-awareness, foster a stable and harmonious outlook. Moreover, looking at things from angles involves changing the way we compare ourselves from a standpoint to one of cooperation and mutual assistance. Of seeing others as rivals or opponents, individuals are urged to rejoice in the accomplishments of others and draw motivation from their successes. By promoting an atmosphere of teamwork and mutual support, they can establish a nurturing environment that empowers everyone to thrive. Adopting a mindset of abundance and collaboration enables individuals to surpass the limitations of comparison and embrace a genuine lifestyle. Then, pursuing validation or fulfillment through markers of success, they find contentment in living in harmony with their values and dreams. By altering their viewpoints and embracing an understanding of themselves and others, they can liberate themselves from the hold of comparison. Foster a life rich in significance, purpose, and satisfaction. In wrapping up, the process of moving comparisons and valuing our worth is a deep and life-changing journey that calls for self-discovery, self-kindness, and staying true to oneself. Throughout this exploration, we've looked closely at the traps of comparing ourselves to others, uncovering how it affects our well-being, societal standards, and cultural beliefs. We've also broken down the reality of comparison, revealing its nature and pointing out the flaws in using external markers for measuring success and approval. Furthermore, we have delved into the effects of relying on a locus of control where people tie their self-esteem to comparisons with others, giving up control over their own value. We have dissected the escalating drama of comparison, uncovering its corrosive effects on interpersonal relationships, collective well-being, and societal cohesion. But from this culture of comparison, there always comes the opportunity to change and learn. It is only indicative of a hitch in seeing past the bars, how to really look beyond the comparison to how one really can rise above in order to live a happier, more meaningful life. It is a journey inclusive of developing the ability to re-evaluate one's values and aspirations, fostering empathy and understanding, and enhancing relations among oneself and with others. So, in essence, accepting our intrinsic worth means finally coming to realize that true satisfaction lies in living life according to your values and dreams, rather than proving yourself to others that you are valid in their eyes through successful achievements and proving success. It is about celebrating the success of others, instituting a culture of mutual cooperation and support, authenticity, and proactiveness. Realize, develop an understanding, and give way to self-compassion, recognizing that worth is not based on doing better or success by the dictates of society. You are worthy of love, respect, and validation despite perceptions of shortcomings or failures. We can well leave comparison behind and live in this world for who we are, actually working at making our life together rich in meaning, purpose and fulfillment. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like, share and subscribe, so that you won't miss out on good knowledge from BrainyFounder channel. Thank you for watching, have a good one!